The Last of Us Part 1 was released last week on the PlayStation 5, and for some, they would say that this game did not need a remake this soon, but regardless, we got it, and it honestly looks amazing. Remakes are nothing new to us because in recent years, it has been a trend of the video game industry to take some of the best video games from the past generations of systems and remake them for a more modern audience. Who doesn't love that sweet, sweet nostalgia? Many of the best video games released recently, in my opinion, have been remakes. Games like Resident Evil 2 and 3, Spyro Reignited Trilogy, and Final Fantasy VII Remake are amazing, and I could play all of them over and over again with no complaints. Coming up in 2023, there are even more remakes on the way, with Resident Evil 4 and Dead Space releasing within the first 4 months of 2023, and we have been told that a remake of Max Payne and Max Payne 2 are on the way. Talking about all these remakes has me dreaming about what other games could we get remakes of, and that is why today we are going to talk about 5 games that we believe deserve a remake today. Who knows, some of these games could get announced in the upcoming State of Play that is rumored for September, but we have no idea if that's happening or not, so we won't speak of a State of Play just yet. If you're new to this channel, please like this video, comment below what remakes you would love to have, and subscribe for more PlayStation video game content, as well as other video game content from Nintendo and Xbox. Starting this Monday, I will be starting a new daily series called Morning Playthroughs. Each morning at 9 a.m. I'll be releasing new videos of me playing through video games. I will be actively talking to everyone in the comments during the premiere of this video, so if you want to join and come out and talk to me while I play these games in the morning, come out and join us this coming Monday at 9 a.m. Now, let's jump into today's video. Those who've been watching my channel for the past month know that I am a sucker for horror games, and the PlayStation 2 had a plethora of survival horror games that I could honestly put any of them on this list. One of the best survival horror game series was that of the Fatal Frame series. The first game in the series released back in 2001, and that game was considered one of the most terrifying games ever made during the PS2 era, along with its 2 sequels on the PS2. Fatal Frame is set in an abandoned Japanese mansion, and the game takes place across 5 total chapters, and throughout the game you take control of Miku Hanasaki as he navigates the mansion and makes his way through multiple rooms, each with a semi-fixed camera perspective that changes depending on the character's position. The environment is dark and you have to use the light of a flashlight to explore the rooms. During the exploration you can find various items that are scattered across the map. The items you collect range from cassette records that expand the story, health items, and different objects. Depending on the area, you might have to solve puzzles to progress the game's story, and there are a variety of hostile ghosts that can be fought using the camera obscura, that is an anti-camera that can capture ghosts. When you use the camera, the game is in first person and you will move around looking for ghosts. You can also upgrade the camera to be more effective during combat as well. With games like Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 getting remakes, as well as a soon remake of Alone of the Dark, there is no reason for Fatal Frame to not get a proper remake. We have gotten a port of the most recent game in the series, Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater, for PS4 and PS5, but it would be great to see the entire series remade for current game systems, starting with the first game in the series. For our next game, I'm going to bring in my friend Tifa Juliet to talk about one of the greatest racing games ever made that deserves a remake.
One of the best racing games on the PS2 was made by Criterion Games and was the 3rd game in the Burnout series. Burnout 3 Takedown is a fast-paced arcade racing game where you are rewarded for risky driving by gaining a boost for your car's speed. There are several game modes to play in Burnout 3 Takedown, including circuit races, aka single race mode, which puts the player against AI opponents, and racing of multiple laps, and road rage, a new mode that has you perform a series of takedowns over time, and those are just 2 of the game modes. The takedowns are what make this game fun because you are rewarded for destroying cars and racing aggressively. The game has a World Tour mode, which is just the game's career mode, and it has you play multiple different types of races. The game is just mindless racing destruction, and you cannot ask for a better game. The game also supports split-screen multiplayer, which we are missing from modern games. My favorite mode was the crash mode, and that had you, well, crashing your car into traffic and trying to get the most money in damages. There have been very few games in the Burnout series over the past few years, and the last game we got was a remake of Burnout Paradise. That was a neat remake, but Burnout 3 Takedown is considered one of the best games released on the PS2, and many believe it is one of the best arcade racing games ever made. That is one of the many reasons that this game needs a remake, but there is an entire generation of gamers who have not played Burnout, and that is a shame. Burnout is a series that deserves a remake and new games in the series. The fun of crashing and taking down opponents' cars is cathartic and is a good game to just relax and play. Come on, Criterion, please give us a remake.
Final Fantasy VII Remake is one of my favorite video games ever made. What they have done with the combat, graphics, and story is promising, and with 2 more games in the series, I am super excited about playing more games in the Remake series. That is why it is perfect timing for Square Enix to take a look at another one of their RPG games in the Final Fantasy series and remake it as well. Final Fantasy IX was the last PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy game released, and it featured some of the greatest gameplay in the series and is considered to many to be one of the best in the series. Though each person's favorite Final Fantasy game is different, nobody can argue that Final Fantasy IX is a great game that needs some love. Final Fantasy IX was set in a medieval fantasy world called Gaia, and the main cast of characters are a mix of thieves, knights, mages, and a princess. The story circles around the kidnapping of Princess Garnet, and the story focuses on taking down her mother, Queen Braun, who has started an unnecessary war. The game played similar to Final Fantasy VII in combat, but the design of the characters was much more cartoon styled compared to the other games in the series. The game mechanics are as normal, with random encounters and turn-based active time event battles, but I can only imagine how good a remake would look with the upgrade graphics from Final Fantasy VII Remake and the adaptation of the amazing combat system and even more story additions to the game. We are getting an animated series of Final Fantasy IX sometime in the near future, and what a perfect way to commemorate that by releasing a game that is so beautiful and can remake the entire Final Fantasy IX game for modern audiences. Final Fantasy VII Remake has been a success, and I personally feel like there is something special with Final Fantasy IX that it deserves a remake, but maybe this time just one game being remade all the way instead of making it a 3-part series. When it comes to remakes, one of the best was Spyro's Reignited trilogy, and that inspired me to think about another series that would be worth remaking as a collection. Now, I know what you all are going to say, because we technically got this game as a trilogy released for PlayStation 3, but I still want it, and I want it fully remade, not ported. That game series is the Sly Cooper series. Sly Cooper was remade by Sucker Punch Productions, and the 4th game was developed by Sanzaru Games. Sly Cooper is a fantastic game series, and I have mentioned it previously in my PlayStation 2 games worth playing video. The PlayStation 3 released a Sly collection and the 4th game for the PS3, but with the updated technology and things that they have done to Last of Us Part 1, and with the success of Spyro Reignited trilogy and the success of the Ratchet & Clank remake, I believe we could get an amazing adaptation of the game remade today. Sly Cooper featured Sly, Bentley, and Murray as they deal with the Fiendish Five, Claw Gang, and Dr. M, and many more different villains across the series. The games were a mix of stealth, action, and platforming. The series featured amazing level design, combat, boss battles, and of course, a banger storyline. Sucker Punch has stated that they are not currently planning on making any Sly Cooper games, but I could see them working with another developer as they work on a remake of the series. Even if we do not get the anthology, it is due time for them to release a remake of the series in the same vein that Insomniac Games did with the Ratchet & Clank series. I will continue to keep my hopes up for now, and I really want these games to be brought back to the PlayStation 5 more than any other PlayStation IP. Before we get into the number 1 game I would like to see remade, I want to throw a quick bonus remake into this list. Resident Evil 2 and 3 had amazing remakes and in many ways have revamped the series and given a new audience a chance to enjoy the series. The controls were revamped and the game looked better than ever. We are already aware that we are getting Resident Evil 4 remake next year, and that game will hopefully be just as good as the original, if not better. That leads me to this bonus remake that I want made, and that is Resident Evil 0. The game would play just like the rest of the remakes with all the bells and whistles, but what it will have differently is co-op. Resident Evil 0 had you playing as 2 different characters at the same time and had so many amazing boss battles and unique elements that did not make it into future games. With a remake, you can add 2 playable characters and you can make it a 2-player co-op game and make the game even better than the previous version first released on the GameCube. There are many ways to make this remake the best it ever has been. I can only dream we will ever get this remake. Who knows? With all the Resident Evil remakes, it is very likely we will see every game in the series remade, and I will not complain about that. And of course, if you have been watching this channel, you will know that Silent Hill is one of my favorite game series, and you also know that we have not had a Silent Hill game in over 10 years. This is why if Konami is making the decision to bring the series back to life, what better way to do so than to remake the game series just like Resident Evil? The first game would be the most obvious choice since it's the beginning of this series, but I think that Silent Hill 2, which is arguably the best game in this series, should be the game that gets remade first. Silent Hill 2 is a survival horror game that centers around the character James Sunderland, a widower who journeys to the town of Silent Hill after receiving a letter from his dead wife, informing him that she is waiting for him there. The game has you running around the monster-filled town of Silent Hill in a third-person view as you try to survive the best you can. In Silent Hill 2, you have to use keys and other items to progress your way through the story and solve puzzles while trying to survive onslaughts from different enemy types. Some of the best puzzles in the game were riddles that you had to decipher to be able to progress. The game has combat that features melee weapons and firearms, but you are not a skilled sharpshooter, so you're not going to have a great aim to attack enemies. Silent Hill 2 was a terrifying game and introduced the most famous villain in the series, Pyramid Head. Resident Evil 2 was a perfect game to remake because it was one of the best games in the series, and Silent Hill 2 needs that same treatment. Now, as of filming this video, we have not heard anything about a remake for Silent Hill 2, but the rumors are still heavily focused on Silent Hill 2 getting a remake sometime in the future and being made by Bloober Team. We still have no confirmation of this, but there is still a possibility that we will get this game in the near future. Silent Hill needs to make a comeback, and I will probably talk about this game for years to come. And when we do finally get a new game in this series or a remake, I'll be picking that game up day one. That is 5 games that I believe deserve remakes in 2023 and beyond. There are many other games that deserve remakes, but this is my personal favorites, and I want to see these games remade for the PlayStation 5. Nostalgia is a perfect thing for developers to play off of, and even though we can still play some of these games in their original release formats, there are some games that are so expensive that it makes almost impossible to play them today, and these games do not need to be forgotten. Tell me in the comments below what games you want to see remade, and please subscribe to this channel for more content. Also, do not forget that starting this Monday, I'll be starting a new daily series called Morning Playthroughs. We will be playing through video games every morning at 9 a.m. and you guys can hang out and talk to me in the comments below as I'll be releasing this video as a premiere. If you want to come out, watch me play some video games, and talk to me in the comments, come on out and join us on Monday at 9 a.m. Thanks for watching today's video, and I will see you guys next time.